This episode of the Amplifying Scientific Innovation podcast is sponsored by Nanoform. Small is powerful.
Hello and welcome to the Amplifying Scientific Innovation podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sophia Onoye, founder and CEO of the Sophia Consulting Firm, a life science marketing and communications consultancy that was established in New York City with the goal of amplifying scientific innovation. The goal of this podcast is to showcase scientific innovation stemming from global life science companies through conversations with senior leaders who share their unique leadership journey, corporate vision, and industry outlook. My guest today is Mr. Christian Jones, Chief Commercial Officer of Nanoform, an innovative nanoparticle medicine enabling company. Nanoform works together with pharma and biotech partners globally to reduce clinical attrition and enhance their molecules formulation performance through its best-in-class nanonization services. Christian is a seasoned commercial professional in the pharmaceutical and biotech space with an established and successful track record of high-value deals with global experience. He started his career as a process chemist at GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, almost 20 years ago, and quickly rose to prominence as a senior commercial leader through diverse experiences in leading life science companies such as Dr. Reddy's and Johnson Matthey. Christian's specialties range from particle engineering and crystallization science to pharmaceutical business development, sales and licensing across Europe, North America, and Asia Pacific markets. Christian holds a Master of Chemistry degree from the University of Leeds and is a Fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry. I connected with Christian last year at the CNS Summit and was blown away by his intelligence and commitment to advancing the growing field of nanotechnology. Moreover, as a medicinal chemist and small business owner, I absolutely love Nanoform's tagline, "Small is powerful." Welcome to the show, Christian.
Thank you very much, Sophia. It's a pleasure to be on here, and it's great to talk to you.
So I usually start with my favorite question, which is, what is your definition of scientific innovation?
You know, for me, scientific innovation it's wonderful to have, new ideas, to come up with things that are innovative or inventive, shall we say. But the real value comes from when you can actually take those ideas forward commercially and actually generate value out of them. So for me, science as a subject is all about understanding and exploring. And we're constantly trying to push the boundaries of what we understand to discover, new ideas, new concepts, new ways of doing things that either make our lives easier, help us become more efficient, or really have some breakthroughs in terms of the way that we live and behave. And I think when it comes to pharmaceutical development, we've had some fantastic discoveries. We've created some blockbuster drugs, some really, shall we say, valuable products that can really change people's lives and help them to live longer, help them to live better lives. But when it comes to innovation tends to come from an idea, and to generate ideas, I think within any company you have to have creative minds that are involved in the pursuit of innovation. But it's not necessarily those same creative minds that will take that innovation forward to the marketplace. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to be able to foster innovation within any organization, to nurture that innovation and to allow those creative minds to be able to go away and to develop new ideas. But I think it's also important to have other people that have other skill sets within those organizations to help to push those ideas forward, to help to drive them to the marketplace, because that requires a different skill set in terms of perseverance and commercial understanding of how you can generate value from those ideas. And I think perseverance is a key within this area. And Sir James Black was quoted to have said to Safi Bahcall from Loonshots, the author of Loonshots, a drug isn't successful unless it's been killed 3 times. That's the stark and depressing reality of the environment that we live in. Obviously, there's checks and cross checks in terms from a regulatory perspective, but we also have colleagues, co-workers, friends who may not agree with ideas that are necessarily a loon shot, shall we say, or something that comes out of the blue. And so I think, it's that perseverance and being willing to push those ideas forward that often makes innovation successful. And if you can combine perseverance with great technology and novel ideas together with commercial innovation, I think that's a strong recipe for success.
Extremely well said. I couldn't agree with you more. One of the things I appreciate about this platform is it's an opportunity to educate the public just about how difficult it is to bring a new therapy to the market. And so I'm glad that you mentioned perseverance, because to me, that is the key ingredient. Without that, I don't think we'll be successful. Don't you agree? Absolutely.
It's very, very important. Yeah, and It's very hard, I think, to push some of these ideas forward. I've been in organisations previous. I've had experience where you have a great idea, and then there's so many stakeholders that need to get involved to be able to pursue that idea that after some time the will for that idea sort of dissipates.
Right.
So we'll come on to that later, and why sometimes being agile, being able to make decisions quickly, can help with pushing innovation forward.
Great. Well, thank you for that great intro. So my second question, you've done quite a lot. I'm quite proud of you personally. And one of the key things to me is just the fact that you have experience across multiple markets, and I think it gives you a unique perspective. So I've been told that this question sometimes feels like picking your favorite child, but I'm curious to know, what is the most impactful achievement that you think you've had to date that probably contributed the most to the man that you are today?
That's a big question. I think I took a decision early on in my career to move away from the bench, to move away from the lab. And I think that was fundamentally changed my direction from a career perspective, and it was the right thing to have done for me. Whilst I am fascinated by science, and whilst I enjoyed doing chemistry at the lab and discovering new drugs, or helping to discover new drugs, for me, I'm a people person as well.
Right.
So there was a certain skill set that I was not fulfilling just by talking to one colleague, one side of me, and one colleague the other. And but actually being able to talk to clients or talk to people about chemistry, talk to them about drug development, find ways that I can help solve their problems, has been, I say, one of the things that I get the most enjoyment out of. And I think it's one of the things that I am most pleased I took that decision at an early stage, and I've continued to pursue that within my career. I think from a maybe professional perspective. From a scientific perspective, I would say I love being able to sell technology or ideas, again, to a partner, if I think that we can help solve their problem. But what I love more is actually, it's one thing selling, it's another thing actually delivering, and being able to see those solutions in real time, and see how they're impacting the partner, but also ultimately how they may impact the patient. And I think one of the things a lot of technology companies and commercial organizations can get caught up in is the value of their technology delivers on an annual basis, or sales that they bring in, and they can sometimes lose focus on actually why are we doing this. And the whole reason I moved into pharmaceuticals and even into chemistry in the beginning was to help make patients' lives better. So whether I'm doing it at the bench or now in a commercial role, hopefully that can have impact to patients in the long term.
Right. I completely agree with you once again. I think as a chemist myself, I also realize I'm a people person. And once you have that self-discovery, it's like you unleash this sort of person that you are supposed to be. I believe that we have these experiences to help to elevate who we are. And now that we've covered some of the basics, I want to learn more about this company that has this beautiful tagline, small is powerful. What inspired you to join Nanoform?
So if I was to summarize it in a few words, it would be the technology, number one, very closely followed by the people, and then followed by ambition. And then I'd focus a bit more on some of the individuals. I think, technology, as we said before, it's great to have a good technology, but very many technologies can, shall we say, not succeed in going to market. I saw a fantastic opportunity with Nanoform's technology to address a gap in the market, to solve solubility and bioavailability challenges through the use of particle engineering in the nanoscale. But over and above that, the ambition of the company was so great. I thought, wow, I've been in companies before that have been ambitious, but I've never been in anything like this. And this would be fantastic to use my experience that I've gained over the years in commercial roles, but also my early experience that I had in particle engineering and helping to establish a company called Prosonics back in Oxford. And I could take some of that learning and experience and apply it to Nanoform. But I think there's two individuals that I met along that journey, and that's Edward Hegstrom, Professor Edward Hegstrom, who's the CEO of Nanoform, and his brother Albert Hegstrom, who's the CFO. Now, Edward is a professor in physics. He's been at Harvard, he's been at Stanford, he's been a PI at CERN. Very, very smart, bright, intelligent gentleman. And his brother Albert, on the finance side, has this fantastic network within investment banking. He's been in various different global organizations at senior levels. And it's so rare to find that combination of individuals within a company, not least brothers, that can cross-check each other and make sure that they're, driving along the same path. And I thought that's actually a very unusual thing to see in a company with a novel technology. And I just felt it was a recipe for success. And it has proved to be, very advantageous to Nanoform, because you have to be able to sell a message. You have to not only talk about the value that a technology can have to your pharmaceutical partners, you have to be able to talk about that same value to investors. You have to be able to explain it in a way that the investment community understands and can appreciate. So having people with the right networks and connections and experience, I think, has really helped Nanoform to succeed.
Great. So technology, people, and ambition. That's what inspired you to join Nanoform. Great. So my next question is, can you provide us with a top-line overview of ongoing work at Nanoform, whether that's, of course, in immunotherapy or COVID-19, or even outside of that? It would be great to learn a little bit more about the company.
Of course. So, it's more important than ever as an industry that we increase efficiency in pharmaceutical development. And I think in the light of COVID-19, to make effective therapies, there are some great work that's going on globally, and nanotechnology is playing a role in that for sure. But alongside this, it's vital that we remember the need for novel treatments for as yet uncurable diseases, such as Alzheimer's, for example, that hasn't gone away. COVID is here and it needs to be addressed, but at the same time, we still need to keep a focus on those disease areas that are as yet untreated. And if you look at the industry as a whole, we spend approximately $180 billion a year, and we put approximately 50 products into the US market each year. And when you compare that to other industries that spend a tenth of that, but put thousands of products into the market, it's, again, makes you stop and think. And, there's many reasons why we're not as efficient as we could be. A whole plethora of different areas, regulatory, clinical, the way that we commercialize products. Safety is ultimately has to be established, and efficacy has to be established, and product commercialization has to be established to make these products successful. But at the same time, there's a lot of opportunities to improve that rate of efficiency, and that's what Nanoform is trying to address. Is can we take forward more drugs into preclinical and clinical development that otherwise wouldn't be possible by using nanoparticles, by addressing one of the biggest rates of failure, which is right at the start of the drug development process, which is the solubility and the bioavailability of drugs. As drug molecules have become more complex, because the drug discovery engine, shall we say, has focused on the small molecules, the really small molecules, and used up a lot of these entities, we're now left with developing products in the small molecule space that are more and more complex, and they have brick dust like properties, so they just won't absorb very well into the body. And a lot of those great molecules could be sat on the shelf, or they could just be discarded because of their chemical properties. So Nanoform's mission is, let's see if we can revisit some of those compounds. Let's see if there are molecules in development with our partners that we can help to take them forward into clinical development and reduce that first phase of clinical attrition or preclinical attrition, and maybe double the number of compounds that go into clinical development. And then if you apply the same rules of clinical attrition, if you've taken that impact there, you should effectively be able to have a major impact on the number that can go to market. And of course, we don't just work in the early stages, we also work in the late stages, looking at life cycle management, drug repurposing. Can we make safer medications using smaller particles, by reducing dosage, maybe even enabling pediatric formulations? There's these are just some ideas, and of course, we talked about Alzheimer's a second ago. There's lots of really exciting opportunities to use nanoparticles for drug delivery. So aside from the solubility and pharmacokinetic area, can we actually enable novel delivery of drugs? Maybe take something that used to be a tablet, you can take it intranasally. Maybe you could take something that might have been an injectable and make a transdermal patch. Maybe there's lots of other ways that we can improve the existing products that we have, or find new indications or new ways of delivering them.
Very well said. I think that improving efficiencies, right? Reducing the inefficiencies in the drug development process across all stages, early stage, late stage, it's really critical to advancing scientific innovation in the industry at large. So I would agree with you very much so about what Nanoform is doing. And I think that people need to understand a lot more about what nanotechnology can bring to the table. So having said that, what is your vision for Nanoform? You're in a very important role in the company. And I think your vision is very important to advancing what this company can actually achieve in the next 10, 20 years or so.
So I said, I think a couple of questions ago that, one of the things that attracted me about Nanoform is its ambition. And our vision is to touch the lives of 1 billion patients globally. We want our technology to be applied widely. We want it to, be inside every medicine if we could. But realistically, we want it to be applied as widely as possible, and to impact and to improve patients' lives. And the only way that we can do that is by partnering with many, many companies. So, we've started to do that in the last couple of years. And as we grow our commercial organization, we'll continue to partner with more and more companies, major pharma, mid-sized pharma and small biotechs, to help develop these products with them.
Great. And do you have any concerns about COVID-19 and how that might potentially impact that vision?
Yes. I mean, lab work is by its very nature hands-on. So I think it's about, we've been very fortunate, I would say, in the fact that our business is located in Finland, and they've had a very low infection rate and compared to other countries. And we have to be smart about the way that we do things. We have to be very safe in everything that we do. But we have to adjust and we have to be flexible. And, from a commercial perspective, I haven't traveled very much in the last 6 months. So, that's something to be concerned about, is how do we still continue to build commercial relationships? But fortunately, we have been able to do that and to develop lots of new relationships in that time, and continue to build a strong pipeline of product opportunities that we're working on with partners. I think some companies have applied the brakes on production during this period, but the pharmaceutical development is one of those industries that's critical to continue. Whereas you look at other industries that have really been affected more so, I think, than the pharma industry by COVID-19. So I think in that case, we're also quite fortunate that it's considered a critical industry to continue and to still get the levels of funding that it needs going forward. We very successfully completed an IPO in June. We listed on the Swedish and Finnish First North Premier markets for NASDAQ. And that was, right in the middle of the first wave of coronavirus. Fantastic experience for me personally to be involved in that, to help the business to achieve that goal. But it just shows that, people are investing in healthcare and in technology for pharma. And there's been a real rise in the number of public offerings, I think, recently. Certainly September was a sort of stellar month for that in the US as well. So I think it's very encouraging that despite the pandemic, people are investing in technology, and we clearly need it, right? We clearly need new technologies to help us tackle some of these problems. I think the other thing I would say is the use of communication technologies been vital during this period to be able to adapt, and it's very important going forward. For me personally, communication is one of the most important things for any business, whether it's technology related or not. We have to communicate. People buy from people, right. And you have to be able to do that effectively. Otherwise, you can't deliver your message, and you can't understand your client's needs, and you can't address those appropriately. So I think communication technology is developing. The platform that we're on today, and there's many other platforms that are probably have benefited from this situation. But it also makes you think, can we do things more efficiently? Again, back to the efficiency aspect in the way that we work. We haven't traveled as much, but we've been very, very successful in still generating value for the business and still being successful in doing business. So I think, human nature is that we can adapt, and it's great to see that adaptability still taking place in situations like this.
Great. And it ties back to what you said earlier about the role that perseverance plays in innovation. So I think that it's nice to, come full circle. So if we switch gears to a macro view, what do you think about some of the changes that we've experienced in the biotech industry in the past 15 years? Are there any loopholes in your opinion? It'll be great to hear your perspective.
I think a lot's changed in that time. I think there was a period when the large molecules were starting to be developed, and there was a lot of concern about the small molecule pipelines. Are they going to dwindle? And is this the end of small molecules and moving into big, larger compounds? But I think what we've actually seen is the large molecule growth occurring, the small molecules also being developed. They're becoming more complex, I would say, and perhaps there is an increased demand for highly potent manufacturing capabilities and handling capabilities because they're becoming more targeted and effective in terms of some of the medicines that are being developed. But there's also a bridge in between where, so these middle-sized molecules, shall we say, some of these peptide and these drug conjugates, and so that's a really interesting space that kind of sits between the small molecules and the large molecules. But with all this complexity, it creates challenges. So it creates challenges for formulation, creates challenges for how those compounds will behave in the body, how long do they last in the bloodstream. And I think, nanotechnology is certainly playing a role in supporting some of these types of products to develop, and even in the larger molecules as well. When we think about the industry as well, I think there's also an increasing opportunity for novel therapies for rare and orphan diseases. This is an area that's getting a lot of attention as well at the moment. And I think biotech, as the classic term biotech, so the small, innovative companies that are developing small molecules or large molecules, there's an increasing importance for them to come up with some of the ideas that will take the industry forward. Large pharma are tending to do less and less drug discovery. Shall we say, the risk of drug discovery and the investment in that space, I think, is being managed to a large degree by the venture capital firms who are investing in small startups and placing bets on these molecules. And it's the large pharma that perhaps are more willing to take these molecules when they're past phase 2 or they've entered into phase 2. So a lot of that risk has kind of gone away, but they're willing to pay more of a premium for those molecules. So I think, if you look at the 2019 IQVIA report, they said that over half of the FDA-approved drugs, and in 2018, via the Fierce Biotech, actually originated from emerging biopharma companies. And that's quite interesting because, the space was dominated by major pharma, 10, 15 years ago. And I think, we talk about innovation. Innovation comes from lots of places, and the companies that perhaps 20 years ago were the innovators, they're still very good at what they do. They understand how to take products to market. They understand how to market them very, very well. They understand the opportunities to develop those products, and they are also highly experienced organizations that can be innovative and can develop products. But a lot of that innovation, I think, is happening within these smaller entities. And some of these startups have come from people from big pharma that have left them, that have, as the pharma world, shall we say, has changed dramatically in that time as well. We've had lots of mergers and acquisitions, but less big pharma. So it's an ever-evolving landscape, and I think it creates lots of opportunities going forward. But the key thing for all of it is we need to be innovative, and where that innovation comes from, whether it's from the small players or the big players, it has to be driven and it has to be commercialized.
Yeah, wonderful. So I think I might know the answer to this question, but I'll ask you anyway. Is there any technology or company that you're currently excited about, and why?
Well, other than Nanoform, I'm hugely excited about the molecules we're working on with our partners. There's some fascinating projects there, and to be a part of that journey with them is very rewarding. But I would say, from a technology perspective, that artificial intelligence is a massively growing area now. It's receiving a lot of investment. It's an area which I think holds a lot of promise and a lot of hope for, again, improving efficiency and effectiveness of pharmaceutical development. And it's being used right from drug discovery to identify molecules, through to development, to making faster and better chemical synthesis, formulation development, manufacturing solutions to make effective drugs. And it's being used in clinical trials, and it's being used in manufacturing and potentially in marketing and understanding the market for products. So as a technology area, I think it's fascinating how it's being applied to pharmaceutical industry. We use AI ourselves. We use it to evaluate molecules. So when we work with our partners, we can now do a screening project. So we can look at molecules in their database and say, help them to pick the winners. These molecules are ideally suited by technology to get the best results to make nanoparticles for your product, to deliver this level of improvement for your product. And that's great, because ultimately you're not wasting your partner's time on trying a molecule that's not going to work as effectively as they'd like to. So I think, again, it's about being smart. We also use it for in terms of machine learning. So to constantly improve our process once we've developed a process. We're continually learning from the process. How can we further refine and improve the control and improve the reproducibility of the manufacturing of that particular drug? So I think AI is a really interesting space, and something I'm fascinated by.
Same here from me. So our second to last question for today is, if you think broadly, what do you think are some key consideration factors that will be important for sustaining innovation in the life science industry?
So aside from the obvious, I think multidisciplinary teams is something which I think is very important. Within the large pharma organizations, as perhaps they used to exist, you'd have various different groups coming together, large groups that would talk about development of a product. Within the smaller biotech companies, you don't have so many of those groups, and sometimes it's just people. So you rely on external partners to help support those molecules. In an organization like ourselves, we have all the different scientific disciplines. So we've got physics. The backbone of our company, I would say, is physics. Then that's supported by chemistry, by biology, by formulation science, and now artificial intelligence as well. And actually, when you look at a problem with a group of people from all different disciplines, you come up with some very different solutions than you would if you just looked at it from, for example, a chemistry perspective. And I think that's very important for creating new ideas. That sometimes come out of the box to take forward. So I think in terms of fostering innovation, fostering creativity, you should always think about what's outside the box, and you should try and get external input from different disciplines if possible. The other thing I think that's really important is trust. If we think about taking innovations forward, we need to commercialize them. We need to trust the partners that we're working with, that they can deliver on what they say they're going to deliver. And so that human connection, I think, is ultimately very important as well.
Yeah, very well said. Again, if I put together all the phrases you've used today, I appreciate perseverance, and now the trust factor is integral for sort of sustaining that innovation. So the final question is very simple. The floor is yours. Do you have any commentary or thoughts that you'd like to share as we close?
Just to thank you for this interview and for the opportunity to come on to your podcast. I'm hugely excited, and as Nanoform as a group, I speak for all of us, we're hugely excited about the possibilities and the potential to provide hope for patients through the application of science and technology. And there are so many innovations being developed globally that I think it's a very exciting time to be involved in pharmaceutical science and the pharmaceutical industry. And thanks once again, Sophia, for this opportunity. It's been great to talk to you.
It's my pleasure. My final words are very simple. Small is powerful. So thank you for your time today, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thank you.
All right. Wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This episode of the Amplifying Scientific Innovation podcast is sponsored by Nanoform. Small is powerful.